Ready? Okay. All right. I'd like to call this meeting of the East Franklinton Review Board to order. Call the roll, please.
Fergus,
Here.
Mr. Manfred,
Present.
Mr. Smansky,
Present.
Mr. Wick,
Here.
and Mr. Overby. We have a quorum.
We have quorum. All right. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes from the last meeting in January? If so, are there any additions or corrections, or do we have a motion?
Motion to approve. Seconded.
Moved and seconded to approve. Call the roll, please, Stephanie.
Mr. Fergus,
Approve.
Mr. Manfred,
Approve.
Mr. Smansky,
Approved.
and Mr. Wick.
Approve.
Okay. And continued applications, we have one. It is EF 2201-001. Large there, it's E. Okay, E. 501 West Broad Street, Gravity 3. Jessica Shuren of Kaufman Development is the applicant, and FTON Property Partners OZ2 LLC is the owner. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to
And yes, and Chair notes that Kim Way is recusing himself.
Swear me in.
No, let me swear you in right now.
Okay.
All right. You swear or affirm that testimony you're about to give is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
I do. Stephanie Pensler.
Thank you. Okay.
Second.
Staff report.
Okay. This application is EF 2201-001E. This is a continued application for the Gravity 3 project at 501 West Broad Street. They request for action for new construction.
Chair notes the arrival of Bart Overly.
So the applicant is requesting review and action on the Gravity 3 mixed-use development located within the West Broad Street subdistrict. The development proposal includes a 7-story mixed-use building, primarily consisting of a 5-story multifamily residential building, built above 2 stories of podium parking. Integrated within the site is a 2-story leasing and amenity space on the northwest corner of the site at Broad and May, in a building that is already constructed and 2 ground floor retail commercial storefronts, one on the northeast corner of the site at Broad and McDowell, and the other on the southeast corner of the building along McDowell Street. The proposed building is 85 feet tall. The code allows for 65 feet. A height modification is being requested. Total counts for the project are as follows: 5,360 square feet of retail commercial space. This is not a change from the last submittal, as well as 313 residential units, which is also no change from last submittal in January. The new construction proposal assumes the demolition of 479 and 491 West Broad Street, as well as 55 McDowell Street, all 3 of which were approved at the last meeting, as well as a lot combination, which was also approved at the last meeting, of 4 parcels and city vacation of the alley between May Avenue and McDowell Street. The applicant will return for approval of landscape, lighting, signage, and graphics, as well as windows and doors. And the submittal includes a site plan, floor plans, elevations, renderings, and materials. The proposal is somewhat consistent with the East Franklinton Community District Plan. The plan recommends larger mixed-use development and higher density buildings be adjacent to West Broad Street. Additionally, the plan recommends that a wide range of architectural styles are appropriate, with a preference for contemporary building design and materials, and that the building should include a consistent level of detailing and finish on all 4 sides. The proposal is consistent with these guidelines. However, the plan also recommends larger buildings should be divided into smaller bays, include vertical elements, and have publicly accessible open space to provide relief and activity at street level. Further, major developments should have bicycle lockers and water facilities. Additionally, the plan recommends development be designed to maximize visibility as a means to deter crime. Glass and street trees are recommended. As such, staff requests the following design modifications: more activation of the street along May Avenue and McDowell frontages by way of additional commercial or retail, publicly accessible open space, and/or first floor residential units. Relocating the transformers and generators away from the proposed park on the southwest corner. redesigning the proposed park to front the street to increase safety and accessibility, street trees along all public streets in consultation with the city forester, more vertical relief along the east and west elevations, in consideration of a more robust bicycle lockers and and showers or water facilities to be accessible for all Gravity residents. Staff is generally supportive of the overall concept, but recommends continuing the application to allow further refinement of the project and incorporation of design modifications. Planning has provided feedback to the Department of Public Service as it relates to the requested alley vacation, indicating that staff would be in support, conditioned on the May and McDowell frontages being addressed appropriately. If approved, the board will be approving a height modification to allow a height increase of 20 feet from 65 feet to 85 feet. Staff recommends continuing the application.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff? If not, Jessica? Jack? Will you both state your names for the record, please?
Jessica Shuren.
Michael Soriano, MVPJ.
And you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
I do.
All right, thank you. You may proceed.
Great, thanks. I heard the great paper debate. I don't know where we landed, but I did print off physical copies for better or for worse, so I will bring them over to you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. It's nice to see you all again. I won't go through the full background. Bart, I know you were not at the last meeting, but you were here for the conceptual meeting, so if you do have any clarification questions, just let me know. But I won't rehash everything. Coming out of last month's meeting, we did take some time to hone in on details. I think some of it was just missing from the plan, but some of it we hadn't yet gotten to in the development. One notable thing we did, which I think was direct feedback from maybe even TJ or Ryan, but we inset the entry on McDowell that's halfway down the building. It was an easy change that felt really appropriate and worked within the building. So that created some more relief and really signifies the exclamation point that this is the entry for the residents to the building. We also refined our park. Right now we're calling it a dog park, but I think we're going to just switch it to a anybody park. And took a look at what the layout of that looked like. Remove the loading zone because we feel it's more important to have the park access while in context of kind of what needs to happen around the site. So I know that's a concern for the city that the park is a little bit more private. For us, that was something we felt might be a benefit. But understanding that crime and safety could be an issue, we have a revised plan that we can show today. It's not in your packet, but I have it. So it was great to hear that feedback. We also provided more detail on, I think there was a lot of discussion around the right of way and how the building is interacting with the curb, essentially from the building to the curb. So provide a lot more detail on dimension, planters, benches, etc. Took another look at the retail. I know we talked about the depth, that it's about 30 feet for each retail bay. We talked to our internal leasing team, commercial leasing team, and our retail leasing consultants about what tenants might go there. And feedback we're getting from the community is that there are a lot of tenants that want to have a smaller space. They maybe aren't ready for a big space, or, you know, it's the nature of wanting to be in Franklinton, maybe, that believe this is going to be space that would be well suited for them. So kept those consistent. But we do feel how their inset interacts well with the street. We also met with Rumpke, who's one of our trash partners we worked with, on how they might service that trash, because I know that was a discussion, if not at the last meeting, the meeting before, just making sure we're thinking through logistics there. And let's see if I missed anything. I think that really kind of summarizes what we leaned into. And just to reiterate, like we have a Gravity Phase 1 and we'll come back for hopefully soon at Gravity Phase 2 is there'll be public facing art, interactive elements, things that are going to make the experience, especially down May and McDowell, pleasant and want to make people walk down those streets instead of maybe drive a couple blocks. So we're really focused on that. I know it's a big part of the East Franklinton plan. And so, yeah, that's kind of where we are. One note, and I'll be interested to hear what you all say. We would like to get, hopefully, height massing the building approved. I would like to potentially come back for materials. I'm okay if we want to approve what we have, but the market is just a little unpredictable right now, to be honest. And the intent of the design is the same, but I'm a little hesitant to hone in on exactly the material. Like, I think by summer, we could be looking at different materials, the same materials. I just think a lot can happen between now and then. But I'm comfortable if we want to say, well, approve and come back, that's fine too. But I just want to be transparent kind of about where we are. I'm sure a lot of you are seeing that too. So open for discussion on that piece of it as well.
Any questions for the applicant?
I think I'd be fine with you guys coming back with final materials. I wouldn't have a problem with that, assuming we get to a point where we're feel comfortable approving something today. I'm not necessarily stating that, but I think that goes along with the landscaping, which you're going to come back for as well.
Yes.
And with this building specifically, landscaping and the green space around this building is such a big part of it that it's a little difficult to approve the full building design when all of your renderings show it kind of covered in great landscaping. So
yeah,
I think you're going to be back for that kind of stuff as well.
yeah. And I don't know how the East Franklinton wants to move forward on things like that, but what we've done, maybe even for Gravity Phase 2, but certainly on other projects, is like make it conditions. So that, we can't get our permit until these things are approved. So I want to make this a back and forth process too, but, knowing that I need to be able to have some assurance to keep moving it along, which I know we talked about last time as well. So definitely understand. And I think what has helped us is we learned a lot from Gravity Phase 1 on landscape on the pieces we had there. We're doing some new things at Gravity Phase 2 that have been approved. So we're going to just continue to be able to learn from those buildings and get better, but also too, if we are showing something, it's because we want to see it, Brett wants to see it, we're going to execute on it. But I do understand that landscape here is so integral to the building.
Well, so I missed the meeting last month, but, and I haven't looked at the meeting minutes from that, but I'm still uncomfortable with the amount of ground level parking, which is open. I really think, from an architectural standpoint, I like the building. I think it's, I think it'll, I might find the balconies maybe a little, maybe there could be 2 systems of balconies or something that could calm it down a little bit architecturally. But that aside, I just feel like the amount of open, McDowell Street is a main and main for East Franklinton. The amount of parking, which is screened, but not really contributing to the streetscape experience, is my number one concern about the project. I would even suggest, just looking at I realize that there's a balance of parking that you're going after. And so you're maximizing the amount of parking that you're getting in this project. But I would preference McDowell Street over May Street. I could see May Street maybe screening parts of that. We have more building on that side, but I just feel like if there could be some, maybe it's a different type of unit, but something that that marches along McDowell Street and takes away some of your parking there. I mean, I see you have a kind of a jog in the parking anyway because of the conditions of the existing building to the rest of the site. Maybe with a combination of reducing some parking spaces. I realize compact parking spaces can be a challenge, but I think they're a reality now. I assume these are all standard parking spaces, maybe with doing some hybrid of compact and conventional parking spaces, you could get the count, but introduce some other novel residential experience along McDowell. That's my number one issue that continues to be.
I think one of the things that we're trying to balance is the open garage, and the screening there and, without, mechanical ventilation,
Right.
those percentages.
But couldn't you do that if you, I mean, still, I think it could be screened. I'm not saying it has to be 100% solid wall, but I just think that, like even looking at the way you took care of the screening as an element of the weaving balcony, so maybe sometimes it's a screen, sometimes it's a unit, you get walk-ups.
Sure.
That perforate it and put a little life on the street. I mean, that's a long block to, for a main and main.
Sure.
To have that kind of condition. And, maybe I hate to call a front and a back on this site because it's not going to be a back to the development that happens to the west, but it's certainly a secondary street in the current planning pattern.
Yeah, I hear you. It's a balance. I think, we heard that from the first meeting, kind of consistently added some more retail in, took a look at it. We can continue to look at it. The other thing is, I think the changing code for East Franklinton is super beneficial, especially as we see all the development happening.
Right.
As a property manager, I do want to make sure that we are providing enough parking for our residents because then we will turn something into a community problem that really is our problem.
Right.
We'll push people out. So I don't want to get to that point. I do want to be responsible to the community, but I think we can continue to look through that. And as we find any efficiencies, on the ground level, we do have some areas we're still messing around with. Could we think about having that space, adding to that space? I think certainly.
So can I ask some questions just on clarification? And so I'm looking at page 12.
Okay.
And I think setting the entrance back is great.
Yeah.
There's a door shown on the elevation that's next to the entrance, but it doesn't match up to kind of page 10. And that could be a coordination issue, but where I'm going with this is kind of where I've been, is that bike parking it's set behind these parking spots, and you don't want people walking bikes through cars that are parked there. It feels like that bike parking can be made part of the street elevation with a double door or a door there and some amount of storefront. Like, I
Yeah.
feel that that's a missed opportunity to get a larger, because I think the two retail points, at least for me, have created nice bookends. And if you can expand the center a little bit more to look more than just that inset part, and I think it's gonna function better for that bike parking of, hey, I'm coming off the street. I'm not having to go through the stairwell or go through the drive entrance to get to that bike parking.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like there's a easily accessible access to that bike parking. And I'm not sure what's the difference between the first and second level in terms of the openings, and then there's smaller openings on the second, and are the picket style or the vertical rail doesn't seem to fit with the rest of the building. And so I think kind of refining that. I mean, like, maybe it's not all those screens that are coming down and that, the two closest bays of the entrance get more of a storefront glass treatment or some type of window treatment there. And I don't have a problem with part of that being open air. Like, my organization to this is like moving from broad, you have the retail. I'm fine with a little bit of it being open air there and parking there. That's expected to be safe. It's just, you don't want to see that whole park with no glass, no street level activity. And at least for me, a bike parking can be some of that street level activity because people are going in and out of there. It's interacting with that rather than just the, you go through this main entrance and that's there. It's not the perfect scenario,
Yeah.
right?
It's not a person with a guitar and a margarita.
Yeah.
Like, that's a very different kind of streetscape experience. I agree that it would add an additional object on McDowell Street. I'm not sure it's really gonna.
But, I think that inside the entrance there, you can, there's some, if that's done right, there's the entrance to there. I do think the retail is, they've tried to expand it, and I think that part of the back end is not just a token piece. I think at 2,200 square feet, I think that's good. I'm not as convinced that like retail along that whole frontage makes sense or is viable. I've had this argument before, is I'd rather see some activity than no activity, rather than empty storefronts. And so I think there is a balance there. But I'm just not set on that elevation space between the two retails of being the solution, with the vertical pickets and some of the screening coming down. And
Can you speak to the vertical pickets? It's shown on your elevations here, but on the renderings, it's not. It's more of a horizontal. I think it matches the building a little better on the rendering.
Yeah, so we had changed that. So it is right now the 2-foot crash wall and then the vertical picket above, but we are open to adjusting that. And I hear what you're saying, that it seems like there's some disconnect between the style of the building and that piece of it. So we can definitely look at that. I think adding the door into the bike parking, as somebody who does bike myself, makes a ton of sense. It's a lot less complicated, and we would be screening off from the cars, of course, but even to maneuver the corners is kind of a pain. So I think that's something that we can very much
and
add.
a glass part of the level of security, not just, hey,
Yeah.
my bikes are parked behind us, but I could hop over this fence.
Yeah,
So
for
it's
sure.
like, this is
Yeah.
actual secured
Yeah.
bike
like-
parking, and there's, seems to be two areas
Mhm.
that you could do that on.
Mhm. And I think we can definitely, there are other ways like that to break up the areas between the two pieces of retail. And Mike, I think we can think about a different fencing option above the crash wall for
For sure.
sure, that maybe fits a little bit better with the building.
Yep.
And your elevation is kind of the newer design, correct?
Yeah.
The rendering hasn't changed.
Yeah, the renderings haven't changed, yeah. This is time.
Your elevation now, the east elevation the parking is a lot more closed off
Mhm.
and less open, which kind of, you don't want to see parking, but at the same time, when it's closed off and that's going to just be block or poured concrete with louvers in it.
You're saying on the second level.
Yeah, that's second level.
Yeah, I don't quite understand
Yeah.
that
It's
difference.
a lot more closed and now just has louvers. Your whole, I thought last month was to try to keep it open
Mhm.
so that you're not having to circulate mechanically air. And it, and
Yeah, because I mean, that kind of goes counterintuitive. Like, I would think that
Yeah,
if you can do that on the second floor,
Yeah.
you could put glass or something on the first floor and more open on the second.
yeah, I think we can go back and revisit that one and see again about opening up the second floor a little bit more. So that it doesn't look like, just concrete wall and louvers.
yeah, I mean, what we don't like about seeing cars is seeing the parking lot on the street.
Yeah,
So we've kind of wanted to screen it.
Mhm.
But I think the only thing worse than seeing cars on the street with a nice horizontal handrail is a poured concrete block wall with louvers in it.
yeah, and that was the response to the bike parking, but to your points, I think there's a better way to do that. Rather than just, concrete, all of it, that we can address the bike parking on level 2. And
And
honestly,
it's
talk
the
about
to
what
make
it's
that
like.
garage secure. I mean, like, is the sense that you can't jump over that fence, or is it that it's open? Like
For level one,
level one?
yeah, we've gone back and forth about it. I think what.
I don't know everyone else's preference. I would prefer it to be more like, hey, it's a finished elevation, not just, hey, there's this half fence, so it feels like it's finished off on that first level.
Yeah, and there's a different structural bay to the garage, which obviously, that's kind of part of the reaction here. I mean, let's not forget my bigger reaction, which is I want to see less of that, period. But I think you could disguise, like, you don't have to bring the structural bay up the grade, I don't know if it's a 60-foot bay or a 30-foot bay in this direction, but you don't have to bring that out to the street. You could supplement it with patterning that is kind of following the zipper or balcony system. Those bays, bring it down to the ground, and so it's not something up on something else, something stacked on something.
Sure.
And it does just feel like that first two levels are removed from everything else on the building, and it feels like the residential is just stacked on top. And I think it could be more integral. I think, like I said, and then I'll shut up, is that the inset's good, that, I like the retail, the amount of glass there, like, I think you can get there and making that bike more of a amenity, and maybe that's part of the bike repair part, like, and it just has more of an activity there than just bike parking behind a wall.
Yeah.
That's good.
And because you may even, not throwing out maybe more ideas, but like, part of it could be it's inset and make it public bike parking.
Yeah,
So
sure.
instead of it all being internal to the garage, some of it, the wall goes out, maybe Bart, this is to your point, is some of the wall's out. And then there's an inset part that's more of the private bike parking, that they're just not on the street, they're more inset into the building and covered for visitors. There's.
I just feel like, bike, to make the bike parking part of that breakdown of the big, what is a pretty big block building. You've solved it to a degree vertically in this scheme, but I think that's a component of it. But I'm still of the camp that says it's gotta be, to me, it's gotta be residential. You gotta have, the activity, the kind of coming and going of people on a street, like you have with the facing building that faces the garage on the opposite side of the street. And I think that's a very successful precedent of your own making to be, to be looking at. And I think there are ways that, even the bike parking, going back to that garage, the jog with the garage, like, take those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parking spaces away, shift the thing over, and maybe I could get internalized bike parking. And, if I can add some, have a component of compact parking, I don't have to lose any count at all, and I can get some real stuff at the street that resolves these balcony pieces coming down to the ground architecturally. That's the.
I don't know if there's a way to move the dog wash to the outside from where it's internal, and thinking of, hey, someone walking the dog, they get muddy, you can enter the dog wash from both sides.
Yeah.
Just more activity than
Stuff.
Yeah.
I think this is all really good feedback. I think we can take, the first and second floor of the garage and create more interaction even with the kind of quote unquote existing conditions. So that's really helpful. And I do think, the building is going to interact with what is happening across the street. So we have intentionally put things along McDowell entries, retail, et cetera, because we do know that with the activity that's going to be happening at Gravity Phase 2, that will create like a hustle and bustle for the pedestrian and the, vehicular street as well. And then you'll get things on top, like layered on top of it, like art, like lighting, et cetera. So I do think it's going to make for a very good experience. I'm not worried about more residential kind of on that street, but I do hear your feedback as well and understand that. But yeah, I certainly think we can take another refined look through how we have the garage functioning right now.
All right, everything I'm hearing here suggests that we're going to be moving to continue this application. If that be the case, I'd like to give the applicant some very firm feedback on the staff's concerns.
Mhm.
So that, we don't have you coming back here for 6 months in a row trying to hammer this thing out.
Well, I don't have any problems with height. I don't have any problems with massing, and units.
Okay.
I think the 2 or 3 areas that I'm concerned about are what we've hammered is that the garage parking on McDowell, I guess, and May, both have changed pretty substantially from the renderings, and understanding what that looks like as you've designed it currently, and as you will continue to evolve with feedback from the board moving forward. The landscaping plays such a integral part of the building, making sure that what you're showing on the renderings is the intent. I know that's what you stated. And the idea of the kind of the dog park in the back, I think, becomes almost a throwaway usage. It's kind of behind transformers and a generator next to a trash dumpster from the adjacent property and on the back of an alley. I think best case scenario is you're gonna have tenants that take their dog out there to use the restroom. Best case scenario. I don't know that you're gonna be able to program it and consider it a park that we should think would be a park. It might be green space, but I don't know that it's well, that user friendly.
Well, I've got 6 bullet points here. I think we've addressed some of them already. So activation along the 2 side streets. We've more or less addressed, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think, and McDowell's even more activation, and not to put words, Mark, but I think whatever treatment kind of gets carried over to May in terms of how you screen.
Yeah.
It's not as much of like, hey, we need to have storefront or
Right.
activity there, but I'm still not set on that elevation.
Yeah, it's the same issue of this stacked on that, which again, they can solve.
Yeah.
But McDowell's preference is more activity on McDowell.
So the second and third bullet points seem to go together. Getting the generators away from the park, moving the park, making the park more accessible, less of a, as I think you correctly pointed out, a throwaway of sorts because of all the.
If the transformers can go to the back of that, I know that's kind of an alley.
Yeah.
If they need to stay on May, then it kind of is what it is, but
Yeah.
if the transformers can get put on that back alley, it frees up a little green space facing McDowell, which
Yeah.
I think would be
Better.
better. I think you've got a better chance of trying to use that park a little more.
Yeah,
But
I get that.
Okay, so as far as street trees go, I think we discussed this at the last meeting. We have street trees on May and McDowell. This is really an issue on Broad Street. Gentlemen, what's your position on the street trees on Broad Street? There are none in this plan.
I think there are there's maybe 1 or 2 existing, and that's for us, the city just redid Broad Street. And, we're willing to work with them, especially along McDowell and May, which are it's particularly McDowell, I believe May has some street trees. But where they're redoing some of this, but, we're responding to kind of what the city has planned and what the city has designed and implemented along Broad. I think we have noted there are a couple of trees on Broad maybe that are do not disturb. And obviously would keep them. But yeah, that was kind of our stance on the street trees. We're open to including as the city prefers, but you know, we want to respect the plans that they have also created as well.
I mean, isn't there a clearly defined Broad Street streetscape plan? I'm mistaken, like, that, there's the city.
There's currently one lone tree in front of one of the buildings
Yeah.
that's about to get demoed.
Oh, okay.
But like, didn't we, when we did the Prudhoe, I remember that there was
A
a
streetscape plan.
streetscape plan, and we just said as long as it
Yeah.
follows,
That's what we would do. Yeah.
I mean, the city.
My understanding is,
Staff,
not been
can you
completed.
weigh in on that?
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think it's been completed, but I would go with that, like, you're gonna follow the
Yeah.
guideline.
The city guidelines.
And, you know, this as a kind of wellness.
Yeah.
Center, you are already thinking about, at least in some of the conceptual renderings, there's this idea of how you landscape the front of the building. It
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily have to be street trees,
Right.
you know, in a tree lawn.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the streetscape plan, but I can look. That recommendation from staff is, noted that it would be in consultation with the city forester, who would have a handle on if a tree is supposed to stay or not stay, or if there's more trees planned. So we understand that that is not necessarily our purview, but it's just generally the recommendation that there could be street trees, on the public streets. And then if, you know, the city forester has plans or something that says that's not appropriate in this location, then that would be the recommendation to go with them, but we at least want to explore the option.
I mean,
Yeah.
are they across the street on phase one?
There are not any on Broad Street on phase one, and
Sidewalk's so narrow. That's the same issue.
yeah, I know that was either a concern when talking to my civil group about either May or McDowell, was that the narrow sidewalk might not allow for it. So I think to that end, like, continued coordination with the city on what's possible, what's expected, what's, you know, compliant, et cetera, is for absolutely what we'll do.
Last two bullet points, I think we've dealt with both of those. Vertical relief on the east and west elevations, more robust bicycle lockers, showers and water fountains to be accessible. That,
Can you expound on that?
Yeah.
yeah,
That is just one of the recommendations of the East Franklinton plan, that bicycle facilities should be more than just bike parking. The reason we put it in as a staff recommendation was as just an opportunity to serve gravity at large. Since, you know, how many units have been added to this area, if there's an opportunity in this building to do something more than just parking and concern all those folks, it's just something we were recommending that, yeah, we consider.
showers and water fountain aspect of it.
Not public
facilities.
I will have to, that is pulled verbatim from the
Mhm.
So,
So,
I'm not-
so it might not be relevant to this particular situation, is what you're saying.
yes,
Okay.
so we weren't necessarily prescribing that it needs to be shower facilities. It was just general thought was with all of these additional gravity units, is there an opportunity here to do something more? Maybe it's water fountains, maybe it's changing space, some more robust bicycle facility.
I mean, I think that goes to kind of what I had of the bicycle repair or some instance. I mean, you have not just the area that's called bike parking, something that's accessible from there. Maybe there's a water fountain on your way out, so you fill up your water bottle, like something
Yeah.
that makes that functional.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll
I
have,
mean, I would not be in support of public facilities.
we'll have shower facilities the building that's existing that will be amenities. So maybe there's also additional bike parking that happens there in case somebody wants to park, pop in really quick, shower, not go to their unit, whatever. But yeah, I think we can address that as it relates to the project.
All right,
So
so,
one second. I read this that we have that you're basically saying it's a 9-foot sidewalk for really that whole McDowell.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. And I think that speaks to like wanting, you know, everybody wanting that to be the pedestrian street.
I mean, that helps.
So there's ample room.
9 foot's pretty. 9 foot floor.
All right.
So I have a question, so a question slash comment. So hearing the feedback, I think this is all very helpful, very good feedback. You know, my hesitation is to submit in another week so we can come back March 23rd and not have all this addressed. But the other piece of it is, you know, balancing and further engaging my team to keep moving forward. So I don't know if there is comfort level in approving general height and massing, and we'll come back, you know, with refinement on the garage and with material or with landscaping. What I'd like to do is potentially talk about getting that approval, and then the next time we come back, instead of rushing to come back with updates so that we can continue our design, is taking a little bit more time, coming back with the landscape, coming back with something a little bit more comprehensive that we feel good about the direction it's headed, but me being able to engage some of these sub-consultants that I've been holding back a little bit to just make sure this is, you know, on board.
So I'm fine with general height and massing so long as that doesn't include ground floor program.
Sure, so you're not approving the, yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't know how everybody else feels.
I'm not, from a staff perspective, I'm not sure that at least an approval for massing really does anything. You know, it's not something that you're going to be able to get a COA on.
Yeah.
And massing is very much tied to the design of the building. So, I mean, certainly up to,
We can give you a sense of the board as to that, that we will approve that,
You just want to release consultants to the.
Yeah, I'm not gonna, I won't submit anything for a permit, and I know that Steph has different, you know, different things that she's looking for, but for me, you know, I would like to get that, okay, building height's good, and I know we know, but that full kind of, for lack of a better word, like formal approval, so that I can move on to these next things. And I don't know, you know, outside of
I
the
think we've
verbal.
just done it in the record that, I mean, that everyone's on board saying.
Yeah, and that's-
Disapproved, we're not gonna go back on.
Yeah,
that.
I think as a chair, I'll just say that, you know, unless anybody objects here, the sense of the board is that, is the height, we don't have a problem with the height and massing as submitted.
Okay,
Okay,
that's helpful, thank
that's
you.
probably about the best we can do for you.
That's good. Well, yeah, I know the board's gonna change too, so there's just, you know, I'm trying to think through all those pieces, but that's helpful for me, and I might be back next month. You might not see me for a month or two, but when I come back, I wanna make sure that it's a good use of everybody's time, and that it's also like a continued discussion, but that we're responding to the feedback, because I think it's really good feedback.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, if I can only add one other
Yeah.
kind of design thing
Yes.
where I'm, just to reiterate, where I've had a little bit of trouble is your elevation that has changed and from your rendering. And specifically that middle section that you've set back, now looks like it has 2 full light doors instead of kind of an entire glass section. That's your main entrance, and that is kind of the big focal point on McDowell. I probably would much more prefer the big glass. I mean, this is a big project and a big endeavor.
Yeah.
And to just have a couple of doors with full lights on them instead of a glass storefront.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, I think some of it is getting one thing updated for the submission, but not another, but which is, you know, we need to do better. But the other piece of it is taking some more time to refine some of those really key elements. So I appreciate that.
Here's my other little OCD moment that I'll give to Michael. So page 12, the balconies, zipper, 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 not a zipper, zipper, zipper.
Sure.
Okay.
Is there a way to, I realize that's the kind of mirror flip game of how the units are working out, but is there a way to continue that rhythm?
Yep. No, you're talking about the,
Right above the garage entry.
yep, no doubt.
Okay. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think we can likely figure out a way to integrate that with the entry.
Yeah. So,
Anybody else? If not, chair moves that we continue the application.
second,
Second to continue the application. Stephanie, call the roll.
who was our second?
Excuse me? I moved it. Or second.
Okay, so we have a motion to continue, moved and seconded. Mr. Fergus,
Approved.
Mr. Manfred,
Approved.
Mr. Overly,
Approved.
Mr. Sinansky.
Approved.
Motion carries.
Great.
We continue.
Thank you. I very much appreciate
See
it.
you soon.
See you in a few months.
You, parking, grab, Kim. Thank you. Mr. Way is back in the house. And, our we're on the new applications. We have one. It is EF 22-02001. Address is 468 West Town Street. The applicant is Schwab Architectural Studio LLC, and the owner is Franklin Development Association. Staff report, Stephanie, please.
For this project, the applicant is requesting review in action for modifications to a previously approved application, which was EF 21-04003, located within the Arts and Innovation Subdistrict. The proposal includes demolition of a single-story addition on the eastern side of the original structure and rear covered porch, 95 square foot total. Cladding on the newly exposed exterior wall to match previously approved materials. Expansion of previously approved wood deck, and new concrete ADA ramp along the east side of the building in lieu of the previously approved mechanical ADA lift. This project was previously reviewed and approved by the board at the April and May 2021 meetings. Demolition of the single-story addition and rear covered porch have already occurred prior to this request for action. The proposal is generally consistent with the East Franklinton Creative Community District Plan. The plan recommends the use of contemporary design and materials, as well as the promotion of accessibility and rehabilitation of existing buildings. The proposal is consistent with these guidelines. However, the plan also recommends that historic buildings be preserved to the extent possible. Staff acknowledges the deterioration of the single-story addition and rear covered porch, but notes that the applicant should have contacted the city prior to undertaking the demolition. Further, staff encourages the applicant to ensure that the proposed ramp is designed in such a way that it is reversible as not to permanently affect the character of the contributing structure. Staff does recommend approval without condition.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff? The applicant step forward, please. And will you state your names for the record?
Eric Skidmore?
Steve Schwab.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, did you want to swear me in?
Yes.
Okay.
You are,
Oh, sorry. Eric Skidmore.
okay, and you are,
I'm Steve Schwab.
okay.
Schwab Architecture.
Sorry, gentlemen.
It's okay.
All right.
Okay, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Okay. Floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you for seeing us again. We, in the construction process, were discovered this addition that we had hoped to be able to save was unfortunately not salvageable. We knew that there was a good deal of water damage from damage to the roofing. So we saw that there was a lot of debris and that kind of stuff. But when we got down to underneath it, you can see there was a narrow poured wall that was right on grade, right on the dirt. And then a wood construction that was also sitting right on the dirt that was underneath the porch. And you can see basically they had shoved a bunch of styrofoam insulation in there as an attempt at some point to build a bit of a wall, but
So it's that whole piece that we're saying about.
That's right. So the porch is already gone. You can see the roof is still there for that small covered porch. And in that process, discovered that they only built 2 of the 3 walls basically, and built a wooden frame down to the dirt. So what we thought we were having something to salvage and be able to work from was effectively nothing there to do anything with. So we were kind of left hanging with a crumbling down structure there. So we went ahead and removed it. And then in regards to design, we basically did the best that we could to match the approved design and just continue it straight across the back and more in character with what the original construction would have looked like in regards to the basic footprint. In addition to that, related to that, or not related to that, we changed instead of having the mechanical lift, now it worked better as a ramp. We also explored various options in regards to costs and so forth. And this seemed like a better fit for both the character and for the need. And it also provided, although the actual physical entry would come from the back of the building, the entry in general for somebody that might need the ADA accessibility would come from the front on Town Street, just like the main entrance and so forth. So that's basically what we try to do. We try to meet same material, same character as the design, but we had this addition, as we found in many of these cases, original construction is a whole lot better than the additions later, and the various work that we've done for affordable housing in Franklinton. Some are salvageable and some are not. It seems like the additions are almost always the thing that's a real 50-50 shot. So this one didn't work out.
Yeah, I think visually it just cleans it up a little bit too.
I agree.
It's-
Yeah.
And I like I would definitely like the ramp over the lift thing, and just from a maintenance standpoint and
That was the thought.
usability and all of that, so I'm okay with this.
I have a minor question, you probably have a great answer for it. So why doesn't the deck connect into the main part of the house? You left this little void, which causes you to make the ramp longer. So if you built the deck longer, you wouldn't have to build the ramp as long. And you also have to put a little railing in there because there's that gap. If you didn't have that gap, you would put railing. So just curious why you're doing this little piece here.
Obviously,
Like you
they
say,
would
the deck,
bring the pad back.
if you bring the deck here, you can peel back, but you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a good question. That little void space is a possibility for somebody to throw something down into. The reason why that is cut short, the deck, that is the ramp needs a certain length to meet the ADA requirement for slope. We felt that the scooting that ramp down towards Town Street would kind of pinch point the entryway to the point where that wouldn't really afford us that circulation that we
Or you
require.
want to have a landing for the front of the ramp.
Right, the landing itself,
Small.
Not a midpoint landing if we made it long. We were working with exactly 30 feet.
So the answer is, yeah, the ramp has to be 30 feet.
Yes, that is the answer.
Which I understand.
We were playing with the, yes.
Yeah, I get it. Could still, though, build that into the deck, just have the ramp.
It could cut into it.
it could be a little offshoot of some sort of the same deck level, and I think we would be, from a framing standpoint, would be able to achieve that pretty easily, with that.
Just looks like it's one of those things where you're just creating this void that's just asking for something better to happen to it.
Again, I think it's asking for a topiary. Be a beautiful topiary.
We're not opposed to putting some kind of plant there either, so. that's the-
Well, I think actually the bigger issue is you have it's not just trash that could fall off into it. It's someone who's visiting you that.
Yeah, that's why we did.
You don't have a
It
railing.
the railing cost.
Any other questions? Now I entertain a motion.
Well, before we do the motion, are we saying that we would probably prefer that hole be filled in with deck so that there's not a handrail around it? Right now, you're not showing a handrail around it, which you would probably be required to do if you didn't fill it in with the deck.
Yeah.
Just raising that as an issue.
Yeah.
You all feel like that's
I'd
reasonable.
say
I think it's,
We prefer filling it in. It'll be cheaper too.
yeah. I get, it'll look better, it'll be
It'll
cheaper,
look
it'll be
better.
easier to maintain it.
You can make that part of your motion if you choose.
I make a motion that we approve the application materials as submitted with the addition that the proposed wood deck fill in the crevasse.
Or both.
Is, sorry, is that something that we would find being staff approved or?
It could be staff.
It can be staff approved, yes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the application with stated condition. Let me call the roll, please. When you're done making notes.
Mr. Fergus,
Approved.
Mr. Manfred,
Approved.
Mr. Overly,
Approved.
Mr. Smansky,
Approved.
Mr. Wick.
Approved.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Jones?
How's the project coming?
It is, we had to, with this, we did a revised submission so that we could make the interior work again. It just got approved, but they're still out there working on it now. Move forward.
Great.
Okay, other business. I'd like the chair and vice chair. Anybody want to run against me?
I nominate Bill Burns for chair.
Seconded.
And, okay. Do we need a vote on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have Mr. Wang motioned, Mr. Manfred seconded, for
Yes.
Mr. Fergus to continue serving as chair, correct?
Right.
Okay. Mr. Fergus,
Approved.
Mr. Manfred,
Approved.
Mr. Overly,
Approved.
Mr. Smansky,
Approved.
Mr. Wang.
Approved.
Motion carries.
Next order of business is a vice chair who would like to back me up. Realizing I'm at most of the meetings.
Who was our vice chair? It was Judy.
Judy.
I nominate
DJ?
DJ.
DJ. I nominate DJ.
I second.
DJ by acclamation.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You accept that nomination?
I accept the nomination.
Okay. So we have,
Humbled and honored.
so we have a motion by Mr. Way, seconded by Mr. Overly to nominate Mr. Manfred to serve as vice chair. Is that correct?
Correct.
Mr. Fergus,
Approved.
Mr. Manfred,
Approved.
Mr. Overly,
Approved.
Mr. Smansky,
Approved.
and Mr. Way.
Approved.
Motion carries.
You guys have a forum anyway. My disapproval of, my being the vice chair wouldn't have held any water anyway.
Nominated, I will not run. Elected, I will not serve. Okay, so last item, we have the staff approval list. I note there's some red lines and strikeouts here. Stephanie, you want to give us a staff report on your staff report?
Sure. So really, the changes to this staff approval list are mostly driven by the code change with the special parking area. So the version you have is just showing the red lines of, things we took out that were required changes to parking. Obviously, that's not applicable anymore. And then this, under A, this last item is something that is added to the code. So we just copied it over with the rest of it. We removed D because that's again dealing with number of parking spaces, and then just specified under number B6 that bicycle parking, we'd be talking about location only, not quantity of spaces. And I think that's it. So,
Are bicycles considered the same as cars? They've gone to this. I guess I missed.
From a zoning,
What's that?
from a zoning standpoint.
Yeah, I guess I missed that. I just thought it was just.
all quantities of parking, bicycle or vehicle, are in the special parking area.
Perfect. Thank you for the clarification.
All right, so I gather you're going to need a motion to approve the staff approval list.
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Art seconded.
Mr. Way.
Mr.
You
Wade,
all sounded like that.
it's these, a lot of muffling going on there.
Okay, so, Mr. Fergus,
Approved.
Mr. Manfred,
Approved.
Mr. Overly,
Approved.
Mr. Smansky,
Approved.
and Mr. Wade.
Approved.
Motion carries.
Having completed our business for the day, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Where do we stand? Is next month your last meeting?